Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Minecraft Disney World Q&A. It's a series in which you guys ask me all sorts of questions regarding Disney, ranging from the parks to the movies to the companies, and I give you answers, even if those answers are, I don't really know, or maybe we should Google that. This week I'm sort of hanging out by the Contemporary Resort here on MC Magic, and I've got a couple of good questions to answer that you've asked this week. So let's get started. First off, we have an opinion-based question by Mark Moran, which I need to pronounce carefully so it doesn't sound like moron. He says, what are your thoughts on FastPass Plus? So if you're not familiar, FastPass Regular is a system in which you can go to a most popular rides and you put your ticket in this kiosk, your park ticket in this kiosk, and it gives you another ticket in return, which gives you sort of a time window, and you return to the ride in that time window, and basically you get to go on the fast line to get onto the ride. Now FastPass Plus, which they've just sort of recently introduced, is a system in which a month before you actually go to Disney, you can reserve certain times of a day for certain rides. What do I think about it? I think in its current incarnation, it's not too bad of an idea because it is severely limited in that you can't just reserve any ride. And I believe, at least when they were testing it, the way it was set up was there were limitations as to how many reservations you can make. It was something like 1 a day or 2 a day. I think as long as it stays limited like that, it's not a big problem. It'll be a... Ooh. Oh, did I just make a Mickey Mouse whoop? It won't be a problem because it's we're like stuck down here. Let's just go to MK. Oh, we got warp MK. I think it would hurt the spontaneity of going on a vacation if it was too easily available, but as long as it's limited to 1 or 2, then that could be something that you could easily use to plan around meals or so. Because as it is now, you sort of have to plan your sit-down meals pretty far in advance, at least if it's at a popular location. So I guess it makes sense. You could, for instance, now this is going to, of course, test my knowledge. You can maybe you set up a reservation at the Garden Grill for lunch, and then you go, hey, you know what, why don't right before that we set up a reservation at Soarin', and that'll be our daily reservation. And wouldn't that be great? You know you're gonna get on Soarin' at a certain time, and then you're gonna get to eat at a certain time, and that's not bad. I'm okay with that, as long as it doesn't become too much in which I have to plan every moment of my vacation months before I actually go. That's no fun. Thanks for that question, Mark. Matt Rappa asks, what is the reasoning behind Disney shortening the Country Bear Jamboree show in the Magic Kingdom? And 2, will there ever come a point in time where other lands like Fantasyland and the Magic Kingdom expand or become revamped? So the easier answer for number 2 is probably, maybe. There's no reason it wouldn't. I mean, I think Fantasyland was probably something they picked because there was a lot to draw from the Disney library to add to it, and it's probably the most iconic aspect of the Magic Kingdom. Like, I think if you go to the random person who isn't like a Disney fanatic and you make them visualize the Magic Kingdom, they're gonna think of It's a Small World. They're gonna think of all of these Disney characters like Snow White and things like that. So it's probably why they put a lot of focus on it. But there's no reason, there's nothing to say that they couldn't do it for Adventureland or Tomorrowland. I would love to see a Tomorrowland revamp, but that's just because I'm a huge fan of it. As for your first question, so they did shorten the Country Bear Jamboree. They closed it down, and then they reopened it. I think it went from like a 16-minute show to an 11-minute show. So they cut like, a good chunk out of it. Why did they do it? Basically to, I guess, keep it relevant. They didn't add anything new. All they did was remove certain songs, and surprisingly, they didn't remove the more controversial song. So I think why they did it, and I actually looked this up, and they had somebody at Disney, Mr. Vaughn, says that it should reflect the speedier way that people speak today and the rise of interactive media. It's not necessarily that attention spans are shorter, he said. It's that kids raised on video games are not as accustomed to a more passive entertainment experience. So they're not used to just sitting there and watching, which I feel like is sort of a cop-out argument, because I can think of a lot of longer attractions at Disney that are extremely passive that they're not changing. I think honestly what it is they made it shorter so that they could get more people in and out of that attraction, and so that they can make it more appealing for people, because I think at this point you're going to get two groups of people who go to Country Bear Jamboree. You're going to get the diehard fans who won't mind sitting there really long times. It's like 16 minutes. But I think the other group of people are people going, hey, what's this? Or maybe we should try it. I don't think there's like the casual Country Bear fan at this point, or people who recognize it because it's such an old ride, so attraction. So I feel like maybe they've shortened it down so people looking at it go, well, do I want to spend the next 16 minutes? But when it's 10 minutes, yeah, maybe we'll give it a shot. The worst case, we've wasted 10 minutes. So I think that's partially it. And much better of the case, because I think if you just looked at attendance, rather than the historical aspect of it and its significance in the parks, they'd probably get rid of it right away, because it's just not as popular as it was when it first opened. Great question, though. Pelican Production 67 says, Rob, do you think they will ever build a monorail to the Orlando International Airport? That's a super easy question with a super easy answer. Nope. There's just no benefit. What's the benefit for them to do it? As a company, yes, people can come and go to Disney easier, but there's already the Magical Express service, and my assumption, sort of like last week when we talked about monorails to the other resorts, is that running that bus service is going to be far cheaper than running a monorail. And so that'll be the method of choice to get people to go back and forth. And honestly, I don't think the demand, I think a monorail is such a higher yield type of transportation system that if the demand was there, that they kind of keep getting more and more buses, maybe, but I think they're managing with the bus fleet just fine. So I don't think there's such a need for that, especially because if you think about it, if you go by Magical Express bus, it's like a 30-minute drive. So it's a pretty long path to take, which would mean it'd be an extremely expensive monorail system to build. And I don't think Disney's in the camp of putting that sort of investment into that sort of infrastructure, especially when half of it, which would be the Orlando side, is just not under their ownership. Especially once you leave Disney property, then they have to deal with all of the rules and restrictions outside of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which it makes a sort of red tape headache for them, because, you know, they sort of enjoy the freedom of being their own bosses here in Disney World. Someone enjoying Peter Pan back and forth. Maybe we could, you know what, let's ride Peter Pan. We'll go on the ride. Next up, we've got Christy Barnes, who asks 2 questions. First, do you think that they could add a Disney Cruise Line on MC Magic? Second, there's a plan to retheme Space Mountain to Stitch Mountain. What do you think about this? So the first question, could they? Probably. They're very talented builders here. I'm sure they have the ability to. Are they planning on it? I have no idea. I'm not privy to that sort of information. I think it'd be cool, but I know right now their sort of focus is on Disney World, and so they're going to... Whoa, we're back. MC Magic had a little hiccup. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about Cruise Line, possible. Don't know if it's in their plans, would be nice, but I know that they're focused on Disney World, so they're probably going to want to finish that first. Plan to retheme Space Mountain to Stitch Mountain. I've like Googled into that. I don't see like any sort of concrete plans. That might have been a rumor at some point, but I don't think it's a good idea, especially, and it's definitely something they would never do today because they already have Stitch's Great Escape, so it sort of would be a little repetitive of them to put 2 Stitch-based rides so close together. So I'm not worried about it, but I also don't think it would be a great idea. I think Disney, if anything, and the reason why I thought this was a great question to answer, is what Disney needs to accept and embrace is their ability to equally balance their attractions between attractions based on established properties that they own and brand new ones. Think about it. Think about if Walt Disney had approached Disneyland and Disney World with that mentality of everything has to be based on a movie or a show. There'd be no Jungle Cruise. There'd be no Space Mountain. There'd be no Haunted Mansion. No Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I mean, what else? I mean, so many great attractions that we remember so fondly would not exist because they would have this mentality of, well, if it's not based on a movie, we don't do it, or, you know, a show. So I really hope Disney sort of realizes this and make some rides that are, I think, just based on themselves. Just make their own rides. Now, I think they do that. You've got... Well, here's the thing. They've done it in the past. I don't know how many totally original attractions they've created under Bob Iger, so I don't really know. That'd be something to look into, because, I mean, they made stuff relatively recently, and they're big ones, too. I mean, they just redid Test Track. They didn't, like, throw in a Tron theme. Thought that would kind of be cool. So maybe. As long as I hope they don't fall into that trap of everything has to be based on something. Because again, also not every Disney movie is going to be forever relevant. I mean, Stitch was a cool movie, but it's not, I don't think it's the kind of movie that's going to have the longevity that, you know, a Peter Pan ride would have. I think that's the sort of thing where in a decade from now, people are going to go, Lilo and Stitch, what's that? Oh, it was that Disney movie from that era, you know. You sort of need to put some time into seeing if a movie is worth turning into an attraction, I think. Let's see. East Coast Railroad Videos asks, another question. I feel like Disney World has gotten away from the main idea of waltz, and it's all about music and dance now. Do you think they'll ever give Disney World a whole reboot on that? I kind of don't agree, to be honest. I think if you're thinking of Walt's vision, then Disney World as it is just never was his vision. Excuse me. You got to remember, Disney World was all Epcot. It was all about Epcot, the city. That was Disney World. That was his goal and focus. Yeah, there was a Magic Kingdom, but I think that was sort of an element he was putting in there to financially keep it going and to give it the traction it would need. But really, the whole core of Disney World was this functioning community and city. And that never happened, and it never looked like it was going to happen since the day he died. So I don't think it necessarily ever was lined up with Walt's vision. So do I ever think there'll be a reboot to make it more like his vision? At this point, no. Especially because, like, and I've said in other videos, uh-oh, we're going backwards. I've said in other videos that his vision would not work today. I don't think Epcot would work. So to reboot it would be to be taking a awfully big risk. So yeah. Jordan Mann asks, do you think there should be a ride? I don't consider PhilharMagic a ride that would include the whole gang, maybe a slow moving ride with Mickey, Minnie, Pluto, etc. I don't think there needs to be, but you know what? I would love to see one based on the new Mickey cartoons. The new, I think they're just called Mickey Mouse cartoons. You can pick them up on iTunes for like, I think it's like $3 for the whole first volume, or they're on the website for free. It's a really great new animated, great new aesthetics. Goes back to the core storytelling elements of Mickey cartoons. They feel like classical cartoons, but made for a modern era. I love them so much. They're so fantastic. I mean, even though I had seen them all, I bought them all just to have them on like my computer and my phone and stuff. And I can't wait for them to do more. So if they could do like a ride around that, I think that would be so fantastic. So hopefully like that. I don't know how that would work out. I would love to see their way of working into a physical ride the sort of animation styles that you see in the show. But that's a challenge to be tackled by Imagineers far more talented than I. Let's see. The Disney Expert 408 says, I feel extreme sadness that they're taking Toontown out of Disney World and they're shutting down the website. I honestly can't believe it. What do you think the reason is? I don't know what the reason is, but you have to remember, Toontown was sort of like the permanent version of what was originally an extremely temporary solution. Back in the was it the late 80s, the early 90s, Michael Eisner basically needed to throw something up for Mickey's birthday. And what they eventually do, by the way, it's Halloween season here, which is why there are cobwebs everywhere. So they threw up in, honestly, I think it was like 6 months and under budget, a Mickey's birthday fair, and it was made to look like almost like a circus come to town to celebrate Mickey's birthday, and it was very much simplistic, like circus tents. And they did shows, and it was fun, and it was really popular, so much so that they sort of transitioned to a little more permanent version of it. Where's the button? Oh, there's the button. There's Skipper. Here comes the ride. So Mickey's Toontown Fair was sort of like hey, this sort of worked. Let's just keep it here, and we'll set up what we need to keep it here. So, I mean, that could be part of the reason why they're shutting it down, because it never was like a permanent plan to begin with. They could have something bigger in the works, you know. They could always look at it like this and go, hey, Fantasyland has sort of grown so much. Ooh, what's this going on? What happened here? Ooh, it's getting really dizzy. So maybe they need to scale back on the cartoon stuff so that there's more of a seeming balance between, you know, the sci-fi and the adventure and all that stuff. I don't know. And Disney, they're never really ones to give you a straight answer, because if the answer is, you know, it's not doing well, then they're not going to. But, I mean, hold on. Then again, Toontown shut down 4 new Fantasylands, so it's been gone for a while. So I guess that's really the reason, isn't it? It's because they wanted to put new Fantasyland around there. There's your answer. I guess maybe you're talking about Disneyland. Are they doing that in Disneyland? I'll be honest, I'm not as nearly up to date on my Disneyland news, so I'm not sure there. Laugh-A-Lot 54 asks, what is your favorite Disney movie, and do you think they will add any new rides and attractions to the parks based on Disney movies like Hercules or Mulan? And why did they decide to have Sleeping Beauty's castle in Disneyland but Cinderella's castle in Disney World? So my favorite Disney movie is Aladdin. Do I think they'll add new attractions based on Hercules and Mulan? No, unless they reboot those movies, because I think at this point those movies are, I mean, they're getting old. Hercules was 98, so it's over 10 years old now. They're old movies, and so I think you're only going to see them add attractions that are a little more relevant if they're based on IPs to the IP that they're basing it on, unless it's like a super classic, like they're doing the Snow White. This is really slow and very dizzying. The Snow White roller coaster, the minecart roller coaster, I think that is a case where you might see it, but I don't see Hercules or Mulan anywhere on that same scale as like a Snow White or a Cinderella or something like that. Why Sleeping Beauties and Cinderellas? Sleeping Beauties they put into Disneyland because Walt Disney was actually working on Sleeping Beauty while they were building Disneyland, and so I guess maybe Sleeping Beauty was on the mind, and that's why he picked that castle. Maybe he thought that'd be a good way to promote the movie when it does come out, or to do some sort of, you know, cross promotion. Why Cinderella in Disney World? Well, because Sleeping Beauties is already in Disneyland. Sleeping Beauty can't have 2 castles. And I know that seems silly to say because we're talking about fictional castles for a fictional universe, but like that's how Disney treats this stuff. Disney would come up with a story and they would have to ask themselves, why would Sleeping Beauty have a castle in 2 places in the same time? It's the same reason why they're very careful about how you see Mickey Mouse, because, you know, they want to protect that idea that Mickey isn't just a guy in a costume, that Mickey is Mickey, and for little kids it matters, and so they don't want you to see Mickey over on one stage and see him over somewhere else, so that, you know, they came up with a story actually, like there's a backstory to explain why Mickey could be seen in Epcot, because they've already established that Mickey lives in the Magic Kingdom. So why he lived in Toontown Fair, right? So why was he in Epcot? And they'd say that they were on vacation. Like, they came up with this backstory in the offshoot that there was a kid trying to put these details together to disprove this idea of a Mickey Mouse, and they have it there. And I think that's partially it. I also think if they were to make another Sleeping Beauty's castle, they would have to mimic what they already built. And I think they were taking advantage of all of the space they had in Disney World, and they wanted to build a bigger castle, a different style castle. They wanted it to set apart. Which is funny because now that you think about it, there are parks over in Europe and Asia that sort of mimic these castles. So they sort of went the other way with that, but so be it. That's how I heard. I think the Tokyo Disney Castle looks kind of cool. I think because they are like based on ones that already exist, but they're just different enough to like have a cool feel to them. But that's at least my thought. Again, I don't know. I looked into it and I couldn't find an official answer from Disney. Let's see. Finally this week, would you like a wooden coaster in Disney World? Why haven't they built one yet? And if they build a Woody, what theme do you think it'll get and where would it be? This is by user LuckyPiggy88. I kind of want to get off this ride. It's so dizzying. So, would I like one? Not really. And I'll explain why in a minute. Why haven't they built one yet? Because wooden coasters, I think, are extremely... I think they work extremely against Disney's MO, which is to create extremely, like, look at the ride I'm riding right now, Space Mountain. They never really want you to feel like you're riding a roller coaster. They want you to feel like you're riding a rocket ship in space, or you're riding this super fast Cadillac limo in LA, or, you know, you're riding a mine cart, you know, through this Big Thunder Mountain. Or a log flume. Like, they want to immerse you into a world so that you forget you're riding an attraction. And a wooden coaster, I think, just by its design, is extremely attention-grabbing of what it is, which is a wooden coaster. Just by the way it's built and the way the sounds grab you and the feel of the ride, it would be very difficult to try and hide the fact that you're riding a wooden coaster. And once you do, then this sort of appeal of a wooden coaster disappears, right? Like, let's say they made a wooden coaster, but they made it so perfectly smooth that you don't feel like you're on a wooden coaster. And they perfectly mask the coaster so it doesn't look like a roller coaster. Well, then at that point, you have all the cons of wooden coaster, which is the insane upkeep with none of the perks. And so I just don't think it's sort of like a Disney ride. And so I don't think you'll ever really see it at a Disney park. For those reasons, a steel coaster is much easier to maintain logistically and in terms of architecture. And Disney, I just don't think... I think you sort of see it in California Adventure, right? You got the loopy coaster that I don't know the history of too well, but I think that sort of was going with the theme they had there. I guess if you were to ever see a wooden coaster in Disney World, it wouldn't even be in a theme park. I think it would be at the Boardwalk Resort. And I think the only reason it would go there is because it's fitting for the theme of the Boardwalk. Because you go to the Boardwalk, they have, you know, attractions, and that's where you would see a wooden roller coaster. So maybe there, but they're not really in the habit of putting attractions outside of the park. So again, I don't think it'll ever really happen. That's been Minecraft Disney World's Q&A. If you have a question you want answered, whether it's about the parks or the history of the parks or the company, I especially love talking about the company. There are a lot of great books out there that talk about sort of the history of the Walt Disney Company, or even movies and stuff like that, then feel free to leave it in the comments. I try to get to every question. Even if I can't answer them here on the show, I try to hop in and answer via text comments. I think there's a lot of history to be explored. I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it because it just makes it that much better. I thought I saw an iron golem up ahead and I got really freaked out. Cool fun fact about this is the TTA runs above it, so you can actually see the top of some of these scenes while you're going up the bottom. And what I love here about MC Magic is that they've recreated the chroma green screen effect. So like, if you were, what happens in the real ride is you're on this walking treadmill essentially, and you see yourself in space because it's keying out the green behind it like they would on a green screen. It's a really cool effect. But in any case, have a great week. Make the most of it. Makes it that much better. Leave me your questions. I love to answer them. For going forward, Sunday is the new day for this series, so don't look out for an episode on Wednesday. You won't find it. You'll find it here on Sundays. And I'm sorry about that. If you're the kind of person who wants to watch it on a Wednesday, my best advice, I guess, would be to stop watching on Sundays and just wait till Wednesday to watch it, because these videos aren't going anywhere. And I hope to see you all here next week for the next episode of Minecraft Disney's Q&A. Bye, everyone.